The 12th game you beat was The Evil Within 2. How does this game differ from the first one?
A lot of ways. I think the quickest way to sum it up would be Evil Within 1 felt like a game made by Shinji Mikami. Evil Within 2 felt like a game made by Naughty Dog. It had much more of like an Uncharted vibe. It had a AAA feel to it more than the first one did. For one thing, they try to make it more story-driven. They try to give Sebastian Castellanos a personality. He beat himself up so much over issues that weren't his fault. It was almost ridiculous how much he would self-pity and like just constantly just tearing himself apart. Such a failure as a father over circumstances that were outside his control. I actually liked him more, I think, in the first Evil Within because, like I said in that review, he wasn't well developed, so he could kind of be whoever you wanted him to be. The first game felt like a Japanese survival horror game. The second game, it felt very American. So, like, it was kind of open world, where you had a town that you could explore, but it was broken up into hubs. When you were done with one particular area of town, then you would teleport to another different particular area of town, and then you would fight there. Gameplay wise, it was really up and down. First of all, it didn't really require min-maxing anything. You could kind of just build Castellanos however you wanted to build. Part of that was because there was a lot of self-regenerating enemies. If there was something that you really wanted Castellanos to get good at, you could level grind him. The way they made the zombies or the monsters in that game move, it was actually really nerve-wracking because when they're looking around for you and you're trying to sneak up behind them, they would turn their whole bodies 180 degrees, sometimes even 200 degrees. And you're kind of like, whoa, he's going to see me, because they'd be like, whoa. And it was nerve-wracking in a good way, but the stealth was easy enough that you could abuse it. I did get enjoyment out of that. It was fun. And then also doing such things allowed me to experience parts of the story that otherwise would have been hidden if I hadn't taken the time to actually look for them, because I was looking for things to kill so I could level grind and get more jelly jars and level up. Those side stories that you would get from entering people's houses in the town, those were, in my opinion, the best parts of the game. Those were the highlights, because those are when the game actually felt truly scary. And they were missable, which I think is super cool, because one of the problems I had with when we were watching the commentary for Stanley Parable, there was so many branching paths in Stanley Parable that they said they took out because nobody was finding it, which I thought was weird. But I thought that some of the best moments in Evil Within 2 were missable, which in my opinion, I think that's cool. The developers are not so conceited and so full of themselves that they're like, nobody's checking out this part of the story, and I wish, if anything, I wish there was more of that. I thought the world looked great. Some people complain about the graphics, and I mean, there were times when you're walking around town and there might be a texture or something that looked a little bit off.
So you said for Evil Within 1 that there were a lot of boss battles that were unclear of how you were to defeat them, or if you could defeat them even. Is that continuing on with Evil Within 2, or was that kind of fixed?
They did fix that. There were some really good boss battles. My only complaint with the boss battles is that one serial killer. What was his name? He was so cool.
The photographer. I'll just put it on the screen.
Yeah, he'd kill his victims and take a photo of them. He was really interesting. He kind of looked like Eeyore in a blue tux.
Yeah, he did kind of look like he could be Eeyore's cousin or something.
Yeah, I really wish the game focused more on him, because he was the most interesting character in the game, I thought, and yet they got rid of him pretty quickly. I think that was a mistake, because the game still is pretty long, and everything else after that just kind of felt subpar. And even though he was super interesting as a character, he actually was probably my least favorite boss. Reason being is I thought that his spike in difficulty was insane. Most of the game, even though I was playing on nightmare mode, I was just kind of trudging through, like there were parts that I died, but I didn't feel like the game was ever unfair. But when you battle him, wow. It was almost borderline luck if you could beat him.
Was the story motivating to keep you playing, or was it mostly gameplay that was keeping you going?
Both. The gameplay was enjoyable, but I did not feel like I was playing a Shinji Mikami game. And the story was interesting enough to keep going, but I think if the gameplay had sucked, I'm not sure how long I would have continued with it. Even though they put more focus on story and character development in the second one, the story actually makes less sense, in my opinion, than the first one did. Because the first one was all about Ruvik and his insanity and you being caught up in his mind. You could justify everything by simply saying, oh, well, just Ruvik was insane, so that's why nothing made sense. Where in the second one, they tried to make sense of the whole STEM scenario, and as a result, there were so many plot holes.
So do you prefer the first Evil Within?
I do. I think if I was to replay, the one that I'd most likely replay is actually the first one.
Was the ending satisfying? Like, do you feel like it wrapped up?
You know, the funny thing about it is, as stupid as the story was and how many plot holes it had, the ending was very emotional. I actually do like the ending of Evil Within 2 more than I liked ending of Evil Within 1. Like, I thought Evil Within 1 ended great, but I thought Evil Within 2 ended epic.
So what would you rate Evil Within 2?
I'd give it an 8.8. It was a good game, and if I was to return to play it again, I would have a good time. I think the Evil Within series, in my opinion, is right up there with the Resident Evil series, the Fatal Frame series, and the Silent Hill series. And I absolutely love the cover for Evil Within 2, where he's holding his gun, and you can see his wedding band, and there's like blood dripping from his wedding. Everything else is white. His wedding band's gold. And you can see blood dripping down from the wedding band across his hand while he's holding his 9mm pistol. It doesn't stand out. You have to actually like look at the picture. Whoever did it, they did such a good job.